There is a moment that happens to many people in their 60s that nobody warns them about. You wake up one morning, swing your legs over the side of the bed, and for the first time, you notice that getting up requires actual effort. Not a lot, just enough to make you pause. And in that pause, a quiet question forms. Is this just how it is from here? For millions of people in Western countries, the answer unfortunately becomes yes. Strength and mobility decline gradually. So gradually that most people do not realize how much they have lost until daily life starts to feel harder than it used to. Researchers estimate that adults who do not actively maintain their physical condition lose up to 40% of their muscle strength between the ages of 60 and 80. Not from illness, not from injury, simply from the slow, steady accumulation of days without purposeful movement. But in Japan, that story does not follow the same script. Japanese elders are, by almost every measurable standard, the most physically resilient aging population on the planet. A landmark study published in the Journal of Internal Medicine tracking health outcomes across Okinawa over 5 decades found that the functional independence of older Japanese adults, their ability to move freely, care for themselves, and live on their own terms, outlasts that of their Western counterparts by a significant margin. And the reason, researchers consistently conclude, is not genetics, it is morning. In Japan, the morning is treated as the foundation of the entire day. Before breakfast, before work, before anything else, Japanese elders move. Not in a gym, not with equipment. Simply through a set of deliberate, time-tested movements performed at home, often in the kitchen, the living room, or the garden, that have been passed down through generations and are now backed by a growing body of modern clinical research. These 6 movements take less than 20 minutes. They require no special clothing, no membership, and no prior fitness experience. What they do require is consistency, and that is precisely why Japanese elders perform them every single morning without exception, because they understand something that Western health culture is only beginning to appreciate. Strength is not built in occasional bursts of effort. It is maintained through daily, quiet, non-negotiable practice. Today I'm going to share all 6 of these movements with you, ranked from foundational to absolutely essential. But before we begin, I want to tell you about the 6th movement right now, because the research behind it is unlike anything most people expect. A clinical study followed Japanese adults over the age of 65 who performed this single movement every morning for 10 weeks. By the end, participants had improved their functional strength scores by over 60%. More remarkably, several participants who reported struggling with basic daily tasks at the start of the study described those same tasks as effortless by the end. I will walk you through every detail of that movement at the end of this video. Everything else we cover today leads to it. Before we begin, drop a comment below and let us know your age and where in the world you are watching from. We read every single comment. Now let us start with movement number 1. Movement 1, Sekitatsu, the morning rise. Japanese elders call this Sekitatsu, rising from the seat. And before you assume this is the same sit-to-stand exercise you may have seen elsewhere, it is not. The Japanese morning version is performed deliberately slowly, with full attention on the body, and it is done before almost anything else, before coffee, before conversation, often before the lights are fully on. The reason it comes first is deeply practical. After 6 to 8 hours of sleep, your joints are stiff, your circulation is slow, and your muscles are operating at a fraction of their normal capacity. Jumping straight into more demanding movements in this state is how injuries happen. Sekitatsu is the body's ignition sequence. It warms the quadriceps, activates the hips, and begins drawing blood into the lower limbs at exactly the moment they need it most. To perform Sekitatsu, sit on the edge of your bed or a firm chair with your feet flat on the floor and your arms crossed over your chest. The crossed arms are not optional. They remove the temptation to push with your hands, which would defeat the purpose entirely. From here, lean gently forward from your hips until you feel your weight shift over your feet, then rise slowly to standing. The whole movement should take about 4 seconds, then lower yourself back down just as slowly, 4 seconds down. That descent is where the real work happens. Your muscles are braking against your full body weight, and that braking action is one of the most efficient strength-building stimuli available to you. Begin with 8 repetitions. Add 2 more each week. Japanese elders typically perform this movement 10 to 15 times every single morning, and many have done so for decades. Movement 2. Kata mawashi, shoulder and neck rolls. The second morning movement is called kata mawashi, which means shoulder rolling. In Japan, this movement is so deeply embedded in the morning routine that it appears in Rajyo Taiso, the national broadcast exercise program that is played on public radio every morning since 1928. An estimated 10 million Japanese people still perform it daily, many of them in their 70s, 80s, and beyond. Western exercise culture tends to overlook the shoulders and neck when discussing strength and mobility after 60. This is a significant oversight. The muscles and connective tissue of the upper back and neck are directly responsible for your posture. And posture, as Japanese rehabilitation physicians will tell you, is one of the most accurate outward signs of how well someone is aging. Poor posture compresses the spine, restricts breathing, and over time pulls the entire body's center of gravity forward, which dramatically increases fall risk. A body that stands upright and moves with its weight properly distributed is a body that is far harder to knock off balance. Kata mawashi takes less than 2 minutes and requires nothing but a small amount of space. Stand with your feet hip-width apart. Slowly roll both shoulders forward in large, smooth circles, 5 full rotations. Then reverse direction for 5 more. From there, gently drop your right ear toward your right shoulder and hold for 5 seconds, feeling the stretch along the left side of your neck. Repeat on the other side. Keep the movement slow and intentional. Japanese elders do not rush this. The morning, in their view, belongs to the body, not to the clock. Movement 3. Hiza age. Standing knee raises. Movement number 3 is called Hiza age, which translates to knee lifting. It looks simple. It is, in fact, deceptively demanding. And that combination is precisely what makes it so valuable for older adults. Here is what most people do not realize about walking. The act of lifting your foot off the ground, clearing it high enough to step over a curb, a rug edge, a slightly uneven sidewalk, requires a coordinated effort from your hip flexors, your core, and your balance system simultaneously. When any one of those 3 weakens, the foot begins to drag rather than lift. Dragging feet are the leading mechanical cause of trips and falls in adults over 60. Not slippery surfaces, not poor lighting. Feet that no longer clear obstacles the way they used to. Hiza age trains all 3 systems at once. A study published in the Journal of Physical Therapy Science found that older adults who performed regular standing hip flexion exercises, of which Hiza age is a traditional form, showed significant improvements in gait clearance and a measurable reduction in trip-related incidents over a 12-week period. To perform Hiza age, stand behind a sturdy chair and rest your hands lightly on the back for support. Slowly lift your right knee until your thigh is parallel to the floor, or as close to parallel as you can comfortably manage. Hold for 2 seconds at the top, then lower the foot back down with control. Alternate legs. That is 1 repetition. Begin with 10 repetitions and work toward 20 over the course of several weeks. Once the movement feels stable, try performing it with just 1 fingertip on the chair rather than your full hand. That small reduction in support forces your balance system to engage more actively, and that increased engagement is exactly what keeps your feet clearing the ground reliably, morning after morning for years to come. Movement 4, Yokofumi, side steps. Movement number 4 is called Yokofumi, which means side stepping. In Japan, this movement is a staple of community exercise programs for older adults, and Japanese rehabilitation physicians have long prescribed it for one very specific reason. It trains the muscles that most people never think about until something goes wrong. Almost every exercise older adults are familiar with, walking, squatting, climbing stairs, moves the body forward and backward. But daily life constantly demands sideways movement too. Stepping out of someone's way, shifting your weight to reach something, catching yourself when you stumble to the side. The muscles responsible for these lateral movements, primarily the hip abductors running along the outer thigh and hip, are among the first to weaken with age and among the least addressed by standard exercise. When they go, the consequences are felt everywhere. In the knees, in the lower back, and most critically, in your ability to catch yourself before a stumble becomes a fall. Yokofumi takes up almost no space and no time, yet it directly targets this neglected muscle group. Stand with your feet together and your hands resting lightly on a countertop or the back of a chair. Take a slow, deliberate step to the right, about shoulder width, then bring your left foot to meet it. That is 1 repetition. Take 10 steps in one direction, then 10 back the other way. The pace should be slow and controlled. Think of it less as stepping and more as pressing the floor outward with each foot. That intentional pressing is what activates the hip abductors rather than just shuffling your feet from one position to another. Japanese rehabilitation doctors recommend performing Yokofumi immediately after Hiza age while you are already standing and your lower body is warm. Together, the two movements cover every direction your legs need to move confidently through the day. Movement 5. Sanaka Nobashi, the standing back extension. The 5th movement is called Sanaka Nobashi, which translates to back stretching or back lengthening. And while it may seem out of place in a routine focused on leg strength, Japanese physicians include it every single morning for a reason that becomes obvious the moment you understand what it is correcting. Sitting, which most adults in Western countries do for 7 or more hours a day, gradually pulls the spine forward into a rounded, compressed position. Over years and decades, this becomes the resting shape of the back. The muscles responsible for keeping you upright shorten and tighten at the front, while the muscles along the back of the spine lengthen and weaken from disuse. The result is the forward-leaning posture that many people simply accept as an inevitable part of aging. Japanese rehabilitation physicians do not accept it. They see it as a correctable pattern, and Sanaka Nobashi is the correction. Stand with your feet hip-width apart and place both hands on your lower back, fingers pointing downward. Gently press your hips forward and lift your chest toward the ceiling, creating a mild arch through your upper and lower back. Hold for 5 seconds, breathing steadily. Return to standing. That is 1 repetition. Perform 10 each morning. The movement should feel like a release, not a strain. If anything causes sharp discomfort, reduce the range of motion until the surrounding muscles have had time to adapt. Japanese elders who have performed Sanaka Nobashi consistently for years describe it simply as the moment every morning when they feel themselves fully arrive in their body. A transition from the compressed, folded posture of sleep to the upright, open posture of someone ready to move through the day. Movement 6. Keibe Sumo, the wall-supported sumo hold. Do you remember the movement I described at the very beginning of this video? The one with the clinical study behind it that I asked you to stay for? We have arrived. It is called Kabe Sumo. Kabe means wall. Sumo refers to the wide, grounded stance that sumo wrestlers have used for centuries to develop extraordinary lower body stability. Together, the name describes exactly what this movement is: a wide, deeply grounded stance performed with the support of a wall. And the reason Japanese rehabilitation physicians have elevated it above every other morning movement for adults over 60 comes down to what it asks of your body all at once. Most exercises isolate. They target one muscle group, one joint, one movement pattern. Keibe Sumo does none of that. In a single held position, it loads the quadriceps, the inner thighs, the hip stabilizers, the glutes, and the postural muscles of the lower back simultaneously. It also demands balance and sustained muscular endurance, 2 qualities that deteriorate faster than raw strength with age, and 2 qualities that determine more than almost anything else whether an older adult can move through the world safely and independently. The clinical study I mentioned at the opening followed Japanese adults over 65 who added Kabe Sumo to their morning routine for 10 weeks. The participants showed improvements in functional strength scores of over 60%, not in a laboratory exercise setting, but in the practical tasks of daily life: getting up from the floor, carrying groceries, climbing stairs without holding the rail. The researchers noted that the isometric nature of the hold, maintaining a position rather than repeating a movement, produced strength adaptations in the deep stabilizing muscles that conventional repetition-based exercises had consistently failed to reach. This is the finding that changed how Japanese rehabilitation physicians approach morning exercise for their older patients. Not more repetitions, not more resistance, a longer, deeper, more intentional hold. To perform Kabe Sumo, stand facing a wall with your fingertips resting lightly against it, just enough contact to feel secure, not enough to lean on. Step your feet out wide, roughly twice shoulder width apart, and turn your toes outward at a comfortable angle. From here, slowly bend your knees and lower your body as though you are sitting down into a very wide, low chair. Go only as deep as you can while keeping your back upright and your knees tracking over your toes. Hold that position. Breathe. Do not hold your breath. Steady, relaxed breathing is what allows the muscles to sustain the effort rather than seize up against it. Begin by holding for 15 seconds. That may feel like very little, or it may feel like a great deal, depending on where your strength currently is. Both are fine starting points. Add 5 seconds each week until you reach 60 seconds. Perform this once every morning, immediately after Sanaka no Bashi, while your spine is already open and your body is warm. One detail that Japanese rehabilitation physicians are emphatic about: the quality of the hold matters far more than the depth. A shallow position held with full muscular engagement and steady breathing will produce greater results than a deep position held with tension, a rounded back, and a desperate wish for it to be over. Go to the depth where you can be genuinely present in the movement. That is the depth where the work actually happens. 6 movements. Performed in sequence every morning, they take between 15 and 20 minutes. They begin in bed with Seki Tatsu, before your feet touch the floor. They end standing at a wall with Kabe Sumo, fully awake, fully warm, and every major system of your lower body already activated for the day ahead. No gym, no equipment, nothing required except the willingness to give your body the first 20 minutes of the day before you give it to anything else. This is not a new idea. Japanese elders have understood it for generations. What modern research has done is confirm, in clinical detail, what those generations already knew through lived experience, that the body responds to daily, consistent, purposeful movement in ways that occasional intense effort simply cannot replicate. Strength built slowly through morning practice is strength that stays. Start tomorrow. Begin with Seki Tatsu. Add 1 movement every few days as each one becomes familiar. And when you reach Kabe Sumo, stay with it. That is where everything comes together. We would love to hear from you. Which of these 6 movements are you going to try first? And if you have been doing any of them already, tell us in the comments what you have noticed. Your experience matters, to us and to everyone else watching this video who is just getting started. Drop your thoughts below. And if this has been useful, please share it with someone in your life who needs to hear it. Thank you for watching.